You think Marilyn Manson will make a comeback this year? He has recorded a new album with Tyler Bates, the guy that he recorded The Pale Emperor and Heaven Upside Down with, both of which, in my opinion, are incredible albums. So he's got a talented musician working with him. In fact, all of Manson's recent albums have been bangers, if we're to be completely honest. There was a little rough patch for a few years. I think Golden Age of Grotesque through, what was the one No Reflection was on? Whatever that one was. That period, which was pretty long. I mean, that was like a 10-year period. I'm not saying that there was like no good music in the catalog, but there definitely seemed to be like it just wasn't hitting like it did. And then Pale Emperor came out, and that was a fucking return to form. It was very different than the Manson that I grew up with, but it was an awesome iteration of Marilyn Manson. It seemed like he really figured out what he needed to sound like. Then he put out Heaven Upside Down, which was awesome. And then he put out We Are Chaos, which is awesome. So his last 3 albums have all been bangers. After the last album came out, all of the, sexual assault allegations and things of that nature came to the fore. Manson was canceled, lost his record company, lost his manager, lost his television roles. He was in an episode of The Creep Show on Shudder. That episode was scheduled to be broadcast. That was pulled from the roster. He was in the American Gods show. His character was pulled off the show. All of his scenes were cut. And Manson has essentially maintained radio silence on his social media since that time, after making a few quick statements. But now a new album has been recorded. Manson is starting to venture out into public more and more often. He looks like he's in his 30s again. Obviously, he has the advantage of being able to cake on a lot of fucking makeup and stuff to help with that. But if you see, I don't know if you guys have seen any footage from his recent 55th birthday party, but he looks tremendous. I don't know who will release his new album. I don't know if he plans to tour in support of it. I don't know what the plan is at this point. But it does seem like he's making a swing for the fences. So my interpretation is that if he puts out an album that is like, it's got to be at this point, not just a banger, but an absolute fucking banger. And whatever first single comes off of that album has to be just insane. Like, it can't be like a pretty good Manson song. It has to be something that's just mind-blowing, that's really going to capture people's attention. If he can deliver on that, then yeah, I think this might be his comeback year. Because when I look at the comment sections on these videos about Manson accusers and stuff, it seems like a lot of people in the comments are highly skeptical about these allegations against him. And there's honestly good reason to be. We've already had one of the accusers recant their story and say, no, I was pressured into telling this story. This is not actually true. We have evidence that Evan Rachel Wood and her partner in crime, Ilma Gore, distributed a fake FBI letter trying to drum up interest and to basically lie to a bunch of women to say that there was an ongoing FBI investigation of Marilyn Manson when there was not. And I think that the main concerns I have right now are, one, Manson has gone sober, which might be a positive thing in his personal life, but a lot of times when musicians go sober, their music suffers as a result. And that's not their fault, right? I mean, I'll show you guys a picture of Marilyn Manson from recently, in case you haven't seen. I don't know if you guys, I mean, you guys remember us on the show talking about how bloated he was getting. If you ever go watch that appearance he made on that show, The New Pope or whatever, he looks like a fucking bullfrog. There is so much fat just choking his face. Hey, if you like this clip, you might like the full stream, which I do every Sunday, more or less, over on the Pessimist Productions Patreon, link down below. Thank you kindly. So this is Manson as of January 5th. And you see that the copious amounts of neck fat are pretty much entirely gone. His face actually looks like Marilyn Manson again. I honestly think that, you know, sobering up probably helped him get less bloated. You know, I think that Manson personally should stay on most drugs, but I think giving up his dependency on alcohol was probably a good move. But I also think that there's no way you lose that much neck fat without getting some work done. So I'm pretty sure Manson had some of that shit sucked out. Got a little nip tuck, which, whatever. As long as you don't go overboard with it, I think is fine. So he's looking good. He seems confident in the video footage I've seen of him. I am concerned about the sobriety because, like I said, a lot of musicians who go sober lose that sort of, I don't know, that creative edge. But I'm not super worried about it, because I think that he's just like a genuinely creative guy that sees the world in very different ways than most people. So I think that that might still be fine. Every single time a musician goes sober, they fucking suck. I agree with you. So that's why I'm worried. I'm worried about it, but if there's a guy that can, I mean, like, there are certain musicians that just, like, there's something about them that just puts them on another level. Like, Johnny Cash, for instance. Now, Johnny Cash had some major pill addictions in his younger days, but as an old man and shit, he wasn't drinking, he wasn't doing drugs, and you know, some of his best albums came out in his later years. Those Rick Rubin produced American Recordings albums. So I think that there's a pretty good chance that he'll be okay on that front. The other thing that I'm concerned about, and this is really my bigger concern than the sobriety, my bigger concern musically for Manson is that with all this pressure on him, is he going to second guess some lyrics and stuff? Like, will he look at something he wrote and be like, you know, I would have said this before, but should I say this now? And so I'm afraid that there might be a new degree of hesitancy in his expression. He might overthink some things. He might overanalyze some things and not put out something that's as raw as it needs to be. But hopefully he's in a headspace where he sees that he can't do that and has eliminated that from himself. I'm not super worried about the possibility that he has converted to Christianity, because I don't really think it matters too much from an artistic standpoint. I mean, I personally would find that disappointing, that he would retreat into what I consider to be superstition. But that's on a personal level. On an artistic and musical level, that really doesn't matter too much to me. Once again, bringing up Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash was a very deeply spiritual Christian man and did a lot of very spiritual Christian music. And a lot of that music I really like. And it doesn't matter to me that it has a Christian sort of tinge to it or whatever, because I think that it's genuine and there's a sincerity to it. And I think that sincerity can overcome a lot of things. Now, if you have this sort of fake Christianity that doesn't really have much sincerity or depth to it, then I think that that would be hurtful artistically. But if Manson had some sort of sincere conversion to Christianity and had some sort of like deep spiritual whatever, first of all, I don't think that he would ever even publicly say that. I think he would keep his religious beliefs private. but I don't think it would affect the music negatively. Alice Cooper is another good example of a guy who is a Christian who still has put out some pretty good music. Now, Alice Cooper is not Marilyn Manson. Alice Cooper had his heyday, and he fell off from there. Now, no one stays in their heyday forever, but the stuff that Manson's put out in recent years is like an exemplary example of how to be a relevant, viable artist when you're no longer in your quote-unquote prime. The stuff that Alice Cooper's done since his prime, a lot of it has actually been pretty decent, but none of it's been like, wow, this is amazing. This rises to the same level as Welcome to My Nightmare or something, right? I'm mildly concerned about the sobriety. I'm more concerned about the self-censorship, and I am not too concerned about the potential conversion to Christianity. Those are the things that are lingering questions for me. This is all in terms of just artistic output, by the way. Marilyn Manson has recorded, I believe, 10 albums at this point. And I have not disliked one of them. There are some that I like more than others, for sure. But there's never been a Manson album where I was like, this is total fucking dog shit. I don't like this at all. So it would be pretty monumentous in a negative way if he actually put out an album that I just like, I don't get this. I don't understand what the fuck this is. I don't like it, you know? And if Manson does, if he goes Christian, I hope he does like throw some. I mean, he's already had some sort of gospel influence in his music before. It wouldn't be new. And honestly, some of the stuff he's incorporated gospel into has been pretty cool. Even going as far back as I don't like the drugs, but the drugs like me. There's some strong gospel influence in that song. I think that's the earliest example I can point to of him incorporating gospel into his music. But Manson and gospel, they don't go together too badly. So I'm hoping that if he does embrace that sort of, worldview, that he also incorporates some of that sound into his music and gives it that unique twist. So I am looking forward to this album. I don't know what it's called. I don't know what it's going to sound like. Manson has always been kind of a chameleon. I noticed that aesthetically he's looking sort of like he did around 2003 or so, which was the golden age of grotesque era, which is not my favorite era. He also kind of looks a little bit like the Hollywood era. He's starting to do the thing with his eye again, which he hasn't done in quite some time. But I have high hopes. I really have high hopes that this album, which is supposed to come out this year, I don't know, early, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. I know that the album is done. It is recorded. But whoever is going to release it is going to take some heat. So what record label will put the album out? That's one question. Will Manson tour to support the record? That's another question. So there's a lot of lingering questions right now. And Manson has not been extraordinarily forthcoming with answers. His communication with his fans has dwindled to virtually nothing in light of, his difficulties with law and the civil courts. So I'm intrigued. Can't he release it independently? Yes, he could do that. I don't think he should, but he could do that, yes. I mean, he is a large enough artist that he could do that. The sales from the album will probably be commensurate with sales from his last few albums. I don't think there's going to be any sort of mass exodus of the fans from Marilyn Manson. If you look at his Spotify numbers, they have not gone down since all of this hullabaloo. So there's a pretty good chance that his album will sell just as well as it has in the past. But, one of the things that you kind of need for that to happen is you need a record label that has connections and distributions. And there's a question of, will certain places refuse to sell the thing? Will certain stores refuse to feature it? But Manson seems like he's on pretty safe ground there because typically, no matter what a recording artist has done, it doesn't really seem like their stuff is ever pulled. R. Kelly's stuff was never pulled from any stores. That one dude that punched Brianna or whatever in the face, or Rihanna, sorry, not Brianna. I forget his name. He was not pulled from shelves. He wasn't even dropped from his record label. At least I don't think he was. So we'll see. Record labels are kind of obsolete these days with things like DistroKid to distribute. He just needs a good manager / team. Maybe you're right about that. I know that the record label stuff is kind of a little bit outmoded. Michael Jackson was never pulled. At least not from his record label. We don't know what went on in the bedroom. So yeah, we don't know. But he's on pretty safe ground as far as that goes, I think. So places refusing to sell his stuff, probably not going to happen based on precedent. It's been years since these allegations were made, and nothing really seems to have come of them so far. So that's working in his benefit. I guess we'll just kind of have to see. I would speculate that this could be a huge year for Marilyn Manson. This could be a huge comeback year, or this could be the year that he realizes that there is no comeback. And it just kind of depends on, to me, I think more than any other factor, it's going to depend on if that album is any fucking good. Because if the album that he has recorded is shit, then he's going to have a lot harder time coming back later. Like, this is your, I'm back. After all the bullshit, after all the shit I've been through and all the shit you've heard about me, I'm back. So that thing has to fucking rock. So hopefully it's a fucking ultra banger. I think that's going to really be the thing that really fucking sinks it. But whatever. There's been so many good Manson albums over the course of his long career that, you know, no one can take away that legacy at this point. And, you know, really nothing even in my eyes would even really tarnish it. But the question is, can he still have this career? Can he still be Marilyn Manson for a living? And I think that he stands a pretty good chance. But obviously there's a lot of things working against him.